we are here at the MIT Enterprise Forum Greece conference with Ms. Marina Hatzopoulos. Thank you very much for the interview. Can you give us, let's start with a short background of you for our viewers that maybe aren't familiar?
Sure. So my background is I have a master's in mechanical engineering from MIT. And my background before that was in finance, corporate finance, and working in a technology business. But I always had a dream from when I was a little girl of starting my own business. And so I figured if I had the finance background and the technology background that I'd be able to start my own business. But when I set out to do that, I was lacking management experience. And so I thought maybe I should get management experience. And I wanted to get a job before starting my own business. And nobody would give me a job because I didn't have any management experience. So I finally decided I'd have to do it myself. And that led me ultimately to the MIT Technology Licensing Office, where they pay to patent inventions that are made by the students and the professors, and then they find somebody to commercialize those inventions. And it was amazing because they had a series of really interesting technologies that they were looking for people to commercialize. So I found a technology in 3D printing back in 1994, before 3D printing existed, and started a business with a few engineers out of MIT. All of us were out of MIT, and we started the business and grew it to $30 million in revenue, very profitable, and ultimately sold the business in 2005. So since that time, I've been an angel investor and director on boards, public company boards, mid-size as well as small startup boards, and doing some angel investing. I'm a different kind of angel investor. Most angel investors invest small amounts of money and sprinkle it over many companies, so they have a portfolio approach. I have a different, for me, it's as much about adding value as it is about putting the money to work. So I do one at a time. And so I've invested in just a handful of companies where I get personally involved, actively involved. So it's sort of a different model, but I invest more money. And so I have two other family funds that invest with me, and we do it together. My motivation for investing is it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to meet young entrepreneurs who are trying something new, who have an idea, who have a fire. I mean, that's the part I love, is the people who are really excited about what they're doing, and they're doing something really novel that nobody else has done before. And I find it tremendously empowering to help them achieve their dream. So it's really about the people and wanting to make a difference, to leverage my time, leverage my money, to be able to see something happen. This process of creation is so exciting, where it didn't exist and then it does exist, and you play a role in making something exist that didn't exist before. It's like giving birth. It's just a very exciting process. Being on a board of a startup is totally different than being on a board of a public company, as you can imagine. And it requires getting very actively involved with decisions that you wouldn't get involved in on a larger company board. So it's things like hiring decisions, salary decisions, and really understanding the grassroots of what the entrepreneur is working on and trying to help steer the entrepreneur and help provide useful connections to help them thrive.
How does Marina decide to invest in a company?
So when I'm meeting an entrepreneur and trying to make a decision on what to invest in, the number one thing is the entrepreneur. Are they excited about what they're doing? Are they well qualified to do what they're doing? And their team, have they built a strong team around them? And then it's about the idea. So is there a problem that's being solved that people are actually willing to pay for? Is there some market validation? So have people paid for it? Are they excited about it? Are they happy about it? How has that growth trajectory gone? If they're already selling product, has that been growing over time? Do people come back? If they've already bought the product once, are they coming back again? And then it's about the technical validation. So does it work? Are people happy with it? And that sort of thing. And I'm looking for something for me, I'm investing smaller amounts of money than a venture capitalist. So we might invest $1 million, not $100 million. And so therefore, we're looking for a market where we can control a business and that it's not going to ultimately need $100 million. We don't want to get diluted by venture capital later on. And so I want something where we could go to market with $1 million or $2 million or $3 million and ultimately get to profitability without needing a huge dilutive round subsequent to that. And therefore, it doesn't need to be $1 billion market opportunity, but it needs to be big enough that can support that kind of an investment and generate a return. But ideally, it's niche enough that the big players in the market won't have an interest. So, for example, you don't want something like a new internal combustion engine where if you don't have any intellectual property, Ford Motor is going to come and steal your idea and run with it. Where if it's a little bit more niche-y, where the big incumbent players say, fine, you can do that. Nobody cares. And then you can build a profitable business from that.
On the opposite side, what makes a good investor?
What makes a good investor? So that's a great question. One is you want an investor who is patient. So one who has been through the life cycle of a startup and really understands it. There are always bumps in the road, and a strong investor will remain loyal to the company and will stick with it through those bumps in the road. And importantly, has deep enough pockets that in the next round, when things are not going well and you need cash to survive, they're going to be there. They have the cash to invest more money to get you through that tough period into the long haul. And then ideally, it's great if they have some industry expertise so that they can provide useful contacts, customer contacts, advisors, whatever, and understand the ins and outs of the actual business.
The Greek ecosystem, the angel investors community here in Athens, it seems that it's growing or that there is a lot more activity, etc. What kind of advices would you give to people that would like to invest money in startup companies here in Athens, in Greece?
Sure. So I think this is a tremendous opportunity. This is a really unique moment in time in Greece where you have this disconnect between the availability of just like this whole entrepreneurial ecosystem that's just getting off the ground, and then you've got all this incredibly well-educated, hungry young talent available. And so when there's a disconnect like that, there's a tremendous opportunity for investment. And there is investment. There's investment from the local VCs and from European funds. So to me, you've got the critical pieces. You've got money, you've got talent, and so and then you've got this very high, unemployment, which is difficult for people. But what it means is that if you're starting up a business, you've got this huge ocean of people that you can bring onto your team. And so it's a great time to invest. And so the question is what to invest in. Number one, I would say in general, to invest in a portfolio. So it's not what I do, but especially if you don't have a lot of time to give to an investment, a portfolio approach really minimizes the risk because most startups go out of business. And that is what it is. That's okay. And those entrepreneurs, if they're good and they're smart, they'll try again. And maybe their second or their third company will be successful. And that's one thing, my understanding of the sort of Greek psyche is that failure, people don't like failure, but that's part of the process. And it's good and it's healthy and you have to kind of go through it. So I would say for an investor, having a portfolio approach is important. I think investing in a fund probably makes more sense than investing directly, unless you're willing to really educate yourself and spend a lot of time. And a lot of time, not just in assessing whether a startup is a good investment, but a lot of time throughout that process, because you're going to have to help the startup along through the process.
You told me before that you weren't really connected with the Greek startup ecosystem before the occasion of the event.
Yeah.
But right now you have seen some things, and you are going to see more things after the conference. Can you give us, your opinion, your view about the Greek startup ecosystem?
Yeah. So I'm very excited about the Greek ecosystem, and I think there are hurdles, and we heard about those this morning. But there are hurdles in every environment, and the hurdles are just different here than they are somewhere else. So my advice is for the entrepreneurs to band together and help each other and support each other, because that system is just starting to build and flourish. And when you see it flourishing, it's so exciting. If you go to Kendall Square in Boston, everywhere you turn, every cafe, you're running into entrepreneurs, and everyone's exchanging ideas and sharing information and talking about what's going on. And that kind of a culture where you're sharing and talking, it builds on itself, because ultimately it's a very lonely business, especially the early days. There's nobody to pat you on the back and tell you what a great job you're doing. You have to generate that energy internally. And so having a sort of built-in system to help each other is very encouraging and can help people along. And I would say don't let anything stand in your way, because there are barriers every step along the way, and just plow right through them and work around them. There are always ways around it. And getting exposure to successful entrepreneurs that can mentor in whatever capacity. Just hearing their stories, getting people, especially who know the industry, who can help guide you, and getting feedback from people overseas in the United States, getting as much exposure to those startup companies can be very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Hatsopoulos, thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.